So Guest and Guest determined how an award for a successful proprietary estoppel claim should be calculated. Um, I'll go through the background quickly, and I'll refer to the parties by their role in the Supreme Court proceedings so that it's clear who's who. The appellants owned a farm and an associated farm business. The respondent was their son, and he'd worked on the farm since he was 16. He'd been provided with accommodation and a basic wage, which was at times below the minimum wage. He was led to believe that he'd inherit a share of the farm and the farm business. He had a dispute with his parents about the running of the business, and they disinherited him and they issued a notice to quit his accommodation. At first instance, the court found that the respondent had relied upon the appellant's promises regarding his inheritance, and he had acted to his detriment by working on the farm for many years for little financial reward. The respondent was granted an immediate lump sum of 50% of the value of the farming business and 40% of the value of the farmland, taking into account the appellant's life interest. The appellants appealed to the Court of Appeal, and their appeal was dismissed. The court held that the judge at first instance was entitled to consider the respondent's expectation and had not wrongly accelerated the respondent's interests. The appellants appealed again to the Supreme Court, which held by a majority of 3-2 that the respondent's expectation should be taken into account, but any monetary award should be discounted to reflect the acceleration of the interest. So the interest in the value of the farm was reduced to 40% with the life interest of the appellants, and the appellants were given the option to pay a discounted monetary award before their deaths. To succeed in a claim for fraudulent calumny, the claimant must prove 6 things, which I've put on the slide. A false representation or a series of false representations was made to the testator about the character of an existing or potential beneficiary of the will. The representation was made for the purpose of inducing the testator to alter his testamentary dispositions, either to leave more to the perpetrator of the false representation or exclude or leave less to the subject of the false representation. The false representation must have been made in the knowledge that it was untrue or with recklessness as to its truth. And on the balance of probabilities, the false representation must have induced the testator to change their will. This is not an easy task, and it is rare for a fraudulent calumny claim to succeed. The vast majority do fail.